Hi everyone. In my previous video, I explained about compile and go loader, and that is the first loader what we are using before 1974 and before the invention of C or C++ Java. Okay, before that we are using. So what is that type of loader? And we know that major task or major role performed by any type of loaders are one translation has to done. That means whatever the program we written from using some high level language or assembly level language, that has to be converted into machine level language. That for that we need either compiler or interpreter or assembler we need. Okay, these are the translator we call. Once translator is done, so then it has to do allocation. That means when it is bit loaded into the main memory, where exactly the address, okay, that address also indicated by the assembler. Okay, so assembler translates and as well as it specify where exactly in which address in the main memory it has to be loaded. So that is allocation. So then whenever our source program, our program may contain subroutines, functions, classes, method. So those also has to get converted into the separate object files. And our source program may consist multiple object files. Okay, all these object files should be linked together into a single executable file. And the multiple object files generated by the compiler should be linked together into one file. That will be done by the linker software. That is called linking process. And once linking is done, sometimes our processor has to do the relocation. That means suppose whenever assembler says you load in so and so address, but that address is already occupied by some other programs. So then we need to find in which memory location is free, and in that we need to relocate that program. Okay, so that is called relocation. This is also one of the major tasks performed by the loader. Once relocation is done, so then finally the one executable file generated by the linker should be loaded into the main memory. So that is what the loading, and this will be done by the loader. So these are the four major tasks performed by any loader that also we discussed. Now, how this compile and go loader will do the task? So they will give a source program, then in some program, at that time we are having Fortran, Pascal, COBOL, only that programming language. So that program, so it is not generating the object file, it is not converting the entire program. It takes only one instruction and compile it and converts into machine language, and that machine code directly will store in the main memory. That's it. Take one instruction, convert and load it to the main memory. And so because it is taking one instruction and converting into the machine level language, directly storing in the main memory, there is no concept of what? Object files. Since there are no object files, there is no linker. That means no linking. There is no linking means there is no linker. Linker is not required. And since we are not linking anything, executable files only it is not there. Since executable file is there, what is the problem? Every time, whenever we want to execute that program, even though there is no changes made into that program, so every time we need to compile. That's what every time we need to compile or assemble, even though there is no change in our source program. That is the major disadvantage. Okay, and one more disadvantage is here in this one. If you see in the diagram, assembler. Okay, so it consumes a lot of, that is, this assembler will remain in the main memory as long as our operating system is running. Okay, it is always in the main memory, keep running. That means it consumes more space in the main memory itself. Okay, that is a major disadvantage. To overcome these two disadvantages of this compile and go loader, we go for next type of loader called simple loader, or also called as general loader. To overcome these two disadvantages of compile and go loader, we go for next type of loader called simple loader, also called as general loader. And this loader was introduced after the invention of C and C++. Okay, then it comes. Since C supports subroutines, or we are called functions, inbuilt function, it supports multi-programming. Okay, now assume you people written, that means programs are written in some high level languages like C or C++. Now I'll call this is my source program now. This is source program. Now assume this is my source program 1. Now this source program, So always you should get, first you should get translated, correct? You should get translated into what? You should get translated into what? One object file, object file. And this translation is done by whom? So the object, who is going to, either the compiler or the assembler, that we call in general translator. Translator will do this conversion. Once this object file is generated, so now again it may contains what? Many functions. Okay, we know that in our C program or C++, we have many classes or functions. Or it may be user-defined functions, or it may be inbuilt library functions. So our program may contains multiple object files. So all these object files should get what? So this object file 1, this is object file 2, this is object file 3. So this will be converted by the translators. Now all these three should be get converted into what? One executable file. One executable file. That is what? exe file. Okay, so this, all these should get linked together by the linker and made one executable file. And this executable file is loaded into the main memory. Now this will be loaded into the main memory. Okay, now in the earlier case, compile and go, what is it? So here we are having the machine code, but here we are loading what? Executable file, exe file. And earlier, the whole assembler itself is in the main memory, but instead of that, now here we are having only loader. That means, so a system software which is responsible for only to bring this executable file in the main memory. Only that part will be there. The remaining is maybe empty or maybe occupied by something else. Okay. Now this is what the general loader. So summary. So in this type of loader, our source program will be get converted into many object files, and multiple object files are linked by the linker. So that means now here we are having the linking concept, and then but here we don't have relocation. Here we don't have relocation. So all these object files will get linked and by the linker. Once the exe file will be generated, that exe file will be loaded into the main memory. Okay, so thus it overcome the two disadvantages of compile and go. That is, no executable file means what? Every time we need to compile even though there is no change. That disadvantage we overcome. How? Because since executable file is there, so if there is no change in the source program, directly we can execute this file directly. How we are executing the apps, how we are clicking. Suppose if there is any changes in the source program, at that time only we need to compile entire process. Otherwise directly you can execute this file only. Suppose there is some change, again convert it into the object files, link together, generate a new executable file, load this. Otherwise, directly this exe file only can be loaded. That disadvantage can be overcome by this simple loader, also called as general loader. But what is the another disadvantages of compile and go loader? So most of the memory part will be occupied by the assembler, because the entire assembler is there inside the main memory only. But here, that assembler part, linker part, everything we taken outside, and we kept only the loading, the last stage. That means how to move this exe file from secondary memory to the main memory. Only that part we retain. Okay, so that is the advantages of this simple loader or general loader. But here the only disadvantage is here we cannot do relocation. You can, that means suppose if any one program is occupied already specified, then we need to wait until that is got execution will get complete. And second disadvantage is still it occupies some space in the main memory. So even though the size is less, but still it occupies some space, so that our user program won't get that much space in the main memory. This is the two major disadvantages of what? Simple or general loader. Hope you people understood. Thank you. If you have any questions, anything, so you please write it in the comments. Thank you. Thanks for watching.